Let me tell you, this watch goes against everything I normally look for in a watch. It's skeletonized, it's futuristic, but somehow it won me over. Hey, there you are, and welcome to My Dude Watch. My name is Jason. If you've spent any time on this channel, you know these are the kind of watches I normally look for. But somehow this watch won me over. Will it win you over too? Let's find out. This is going to be fun. You know the deal. Grab a snack, pull up a chair, and let's talk watches. Now, before we get started, I do want to take just a moment to thank Wishdoit for sponsoring today's video. I always appreciate brands that are willing to put their watches out there and let reviewers provide their thoughts. Now, let's get back to the watch. Before we get into the watch itself, I want to take just a moment to mention the presentation. The Full Speed arrives in a very nice zippered travel case that looks great and offers excellent protection for the watch. It's a nice touch and a solid way to start the ownership experience. And now, as always, let's begin with the tale of the tape. The Wishdoit Full Speed measures in at 42 millimeters in case diameter, 50 millimeters lug to lug, and it's 14.8 millimeters thick. On the scale, it weighs in at surprisingly manageable 98 grams. This watch is powered by the Miyota 82S7 automatic movement, which gives you approximately 42 hours of power reserve. The case construction is 316L stainless steel and is paired with sapphire-coated mineral crystal, and the water resistance is rated right at 50 meters, which should be perfectly adequate for an everyday wear. The Full Speed is fitted to a fluorine rubber strap that measures 25 millimeters right there at its widest point, and it's secured by a matte stainless steel buckle. And finally, Wishdoit backs the Full Speed with a rather impressive 5-year warranty, and trust me, that's something you do not see every day. Now, those are just numbers, and it really doesn't tell the story on how this watch won me over. For that, we're going to have to take a closer look. The first thing that jumps out at you is the tonneau-shaped case. Whether you love it or it's not your thing, this watch has a presence all its own. It's bold, angular, and unapologetically modern, almost aggressive. For someone who usually prefers more traditional case designs, this was initially a bit outside of my comfort zone, but like we're doing right now, I decided to take a closer look. The case itself is crafted with 316L stainless steel, and I have to say, the overall finishing is much better than I expected. There are plenty of really cool sharp lines, transitions, and visual details here, and the watch feels substantial without becoming overly heavy on the wrist. Remember, it's less than 100 grams. Now, normally a 50 millimeter lug-to-lug measurement, nearly 15 millimeters of thickness, would have had me a little concerned, but because the tonneau shape and the integrated strap design, the Full Speed actually wears smaller than those numbers would suggest. As far as the crown, everything worked exactly as you would hope. Winding and setting the watch is simple and hassle-free. I mean, it does exactly what it's meant to do. Turning the watch over, you'll find a display case back that allows you to view the movement beating along. I always appreciate a display case back, and it's nice to see that this one allows you to see the mechanical side of the watch in action. It's another detail that adds to the overall experience. Now, moving back up to the top of the watch, you'll see the dial is covered by a sapphire-coated mineral crystal. And look, trust me, with a dial this busy and detailed, the clarity of the crystal matters. Fortunately, in this situation, the crystal stays out of the way and allows you to really appreciate everything that's going on underneath the surface. Now let's talk about the star of the show, the dial, or maybe I should say what's left of the dial, because nearly everything is exposed. This is where my opinion of this watch really started to change. At first glance, it almost feels chaotic, and that's because there's a lot happening here. You can easily see the bridges, the gears, layers, textures, and different finishes. Everywhere you look, there's something competing for your attention. But after spending some time with this watch, you'll begin to realize something. There was a lot of work that went into the design of this piece. Nothing you see here is random. And that's when I really started to understand what's going on with this watch. This isn't a watch that asks for a quick glance. This is a watch that invites you to spend some time with it, and the longer you look, the more details you notice, the more you begin to appreciate what the designers were really trying to achieve. The more I wore it, the more I found myself appreciating the depth and complexity of the Wishdoit. For example, how different lighting conditions will reveal different details, different angles highlight different components. As far as the legibility, let's be honest, a skeletonized dial is never going to be easy to read. It's not as simple as looking at a field watch or a dive watch to get the time, but that's just part of the trade-off. However, I do find the hands visible enough for everyday use, and after a few days of wear, reading the time became second nature. But if you've owned a skeletonized watch before, you already know this from your own experiences. I do want to mention the strap deserves some credit here as well because it plays a major role in the overall wearing experience. This thing is comfortable, it's flexible, and feels well matched up to the personality of this watch. The matte stainless steel buckle is also nicely executed and it feels secure on the wrist. And despite the aggressive styling and larger dimensions, this watch wears comfortably, much more comfortably than I expected, because at least in my wearing experiences, this thing is balanced. It's certainly bold. It's also easier to live with than what the specs might suggest. You have reached that part of the video where we put it all together and try to make sense of it all. We like to call this segment Gripes and Likes. So what do I like about this watch? First of all, it's different. In a world filled with look-alike watches, nobody's going to mistake this watch for anything else. Second, the visual depth is outstanding. There's always something new to discover. And third, the overall build quality exceeded my expectations because I never really have been a skeletonized fan. And finally, I really appreciate that Wishdoit wasn't trying to play it safe. As far as the gripes go, there's not much to really complain about. First, it's universally understood that this design isn't for everyone. I know there's a certain segment of watch lovers out there that prefer a clean, understated watch, and this may be a difficult watch to connect with. Secondly, legibility isn't its strong attribute, but as we talked about before, that is part of the trade-off for this kind of dial. And third, while 50 meters of water resistance certainly is adequate for everyday wear, I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more. I will say that none of these are deal breakers for me, but they're certainly worth mentioning. So who is this watch for? If you're looking for your first automatic watch, I probably would point you to something more traditional. But if you've already got divers, field watches, chronographs covered, and you're looking for something that brings a completely different experience to your collection, that's where this watch starts to make a lot of sense. This is a watch for someone who enjoys variety, for someone who isn't afraid to wear something just a little bit different, and definitely for someone who wants a watch that starts conversations. So how is it this watch won over a traditional watch guy like me? Because it reminded me of something very important. Not every watch has to fit neatly into a category. Not every watch has to be practical, and not every watch has to look like something that came before. Sometimes it's okay for a watch to simply be fun. Well, there you go, the Wishdoit Full Speed Skeletonized watch. We'll put links in the description just in case it's something you want to go there and check out and see if it's right for you. Hey, you made it to the end of another video. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed what you saw today, please take the time to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It'll only take you a second, but it really does help. All right, fellas, we checked the time and it is time to wrap it up, so we will close the show. My name is Jason with My Dude Watch. We'll do it all again next time, but wait, don't forget, dudes can't be late.
Dudes can't be late.